We started Torah, or we were up to Torah?
We're right there.
Huh?
We're up right there.
Okay. I think it's good. Perek Tishi, Bris Torah. Okay, so we did. Since we started the Mitzvos Hashekulos, we did the mitzvah of Kaifer B'Avodah Zarah. Being Kaifer B'Avodah Zarah didn't just mean that I reject Avodah Zarah, but it meant that I reject every value that's not reflected in the values of the Torah. Not only that, we rejected any order of values that doesn't reflect the order of values in the Torah. In other words, that we build our value system to match the Torah. When we have a value that's not a value in the Torah, that's Avodah Zarah. That's Zar, that was one, remember that? That was the beginning. Then we spoke about Chesed, Tzedakah. Chesed was, the way he explained it, at least this time around, was that once a person puts himself in a position that he's completely here just to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so then what's motivating him even to take care of himself? So the idea of Chesed is that part of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu is to give, is to serve, and that also includes doing Chesed with oneself. We based it on the pasuk of Gaimel Nafshay Ish Chesed, that a person even that gives to himself, it's a fascinating thing. We used the mashal at the time of taking a shower, that 99.9% of the world takes a shower as a favor to themselves, because it makes me feel more comfortable, and it makes me clean, and it makes me feel good. So I do it because I want to. But why does a person shower who's completely motivated on taking care of the Rabbeinu Shalom? Because he has a Tzelem Elikim to clean. Because he has a body that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him, and it's his job to take care of it. And that's why he eats, and that's why he sleeps. Not selfishly, but because he's here to give, and that's the Chesed, Tzedakah. Just like we give to others, even to our own physical body, we're giving as a way of serving Hashem instead of taking. That was Chesed, Tzedakah. Then the third of the Mitzvos Hashekulos was Tzitzis. And Tzitzis was very, very fascinating. Tzitzis, which is about Zechira, remembering. And we learned the sugya of remembering, that remembering doesn't just mean that my memory remembers it. Remembering means that it's alive to me. And we discussed at length the difference, that there's a difference between knowing in the back of my mind that something's right or wrong, and living it, that it's present and clear and here, right now. You know, at the time I gave you the mashal that, there's an interesting thing that, like, for example, I gave a bunch of Mishalim then, but I'll pick one of them. Let's say you have a food that when you eat that food, it gives you stomach aches, it gives you indigestion. And for some reason, you keep eating the food and getting indigestion. You imagine that? Such a thing, right? And every time you're sitting there going, oh, you're saying, why did I eat it? This is horrible. So what's the answer? Why did you eat it? You forgot? If someone would ask you, what happens when you eat that food, what would you answer? You say, I get indigestion. How could you pass it over here?
The good outweighs the bad.
What?
The good outweighs the bad.
So then I once sat with someone who was going, oh, but it was worth it. Okay, fine, But what happens if the person's like, why did I do this? We don't have things in our life that we do, and we knew that it would hurt us, and then after we do it, we don't know why we did it. You know why? Because we forget. We didn't forget the information, but it's not alive. If for 1 second you could feel that before you eat the food, you would not eat it. But you don't feel it. It's not alive. Tzitzis, Laman Tiskar, is that it's right here. It's b'muchash. I could feel it. The serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu is alive and present to me. And that was the inyan of Tzitzis. So we did so far Avodah Zarah, Chesed, Tzedakah, and Tzitzis. And then we went on to start the Kedushas. And we said there are 4 Kedushas. After that foundation of 3 mitzvahs, there are 4 Kedushas. The Kedusha of the body, the Kedusha of the mind, the Kedusha of time, and the Kedusha of space. And that translates into, the Kedusha of the body translates into Bris Milah. And that's what we spent a lot of time on last man, learning all the aspects of Bris Milah and learning how a person practically could relate to his body in a way that in our world, in Tafshin Pei Vav, in 2026, we could actually be sensitive to our bodies as being a vehicle of Kedusha. And then the next, the Kedusha of the mind that we're going to start tonight is the Kedusha of Torah, because Torah is what lifts up our mind, what inspires our mind. That's the Kedusha of the mind. And Kedusha of time is represented by the mitzvah of Shabbos. Shabbos is what shows us the concept of time being able to carry Kedusha, and we'll see how that extends to every day of the week. And then finally, the last mitzvah that we're going to do is the mitzvah of Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, because in space, in place, in geography, it's Eretz Yisrael that teaches us that a place could have Kedusha, and we'll discover, hopefully, b'siyata d'shmaya, when we get there, that even living in Chutz La'aretz, we can gain an appreciation of how Hashem's presence fills the world from leaning into the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. And Alachas Kama V'Kama, when we have this chus to be in Eretz Yisrael, it gives us that appreciation. So for now, let's start with the Bris HaTorah. Afilu, it starts at the Yerushalmi, Afilu kol mitzvayseha shel Torah, even all the mitzvahs HaTorah, Einon shavos ledavar echad min HaTorah. They're not equal to one word of Torah. So there's a very, we're used to hearing like all of these poetic, dramatic statements about the greatness of Torah, and sometimes it numbs us from trying to really understand what that means. Like, what does that mean? That means that 613 mitzvahs is not equal to the words that I just read about the 613 mitzvahs. What does that mean? The hadvarim tzrichim bir. This needs explanation. Haloi tachlis chachma tshuva u'maisim tovim. The purpose of chachma, the purpose of engaging in the chachmas HaTorah, is to return to Hashem, to be close to Hashem, and to do mitzvahs. So it's a little bit backwards. How can you tell me that the thing that I'm doing in order to be Mekayim the mitzvahs is greater than all the mitzvahs that I'm going to be Mekayim? It needs some explanation. How do I understand the structure here about the chashivas of Torah? The tachlis divrei Torah, the purpose of divrei Torah, hu kiyam ha-mitzvahs. The ein lecha dvar Torah, there is no word of Torah she'ein boi mitzvah. Even Torah itself is really just a series, I shouldn't say just, but the Torah itself is a series of mitzvahs. That's the famous Kedivrei HaGra Hamuvoim b'Sefer Milas HaTorah, like the words of the Gra that are brought in the Sefer Milas HaTorah. Milas HaTorah is a Sefer, a beautiful Sefer, and this is the time of year to learn it, if you want to get it. The Milas HaTorah is a beautiful Sefer that talks about the Milas of Torah, and it was written by the Gra's brother. So he quotes Achi Agayin Rabbi Eliyahu. He quotes his brother, and he says that the Gra said, and you've heard this before, I'm sure, that when you're learning, every word is a mitzvah. So he says, so what does it mean that Torah is greater than all the mitzvahs? Torah is a mitzvah, and Torah is a hachana for mitzvah. So what does that mean? Ach havanas ha'inyan hizu. The understanding of the Indian is as follows: Kol ha-mitzvahs chalois al ha'evarim. All mitzvahs, and this is what we discussed last time when we did about Kedushas HaGuf, mitzvahs are chal on the evarim. What comes to mind, and I'm sure he'll mention it soon, what comes to mind is that there are 248 mitzvahs aseh that correspond to the 248 evarim in the guf. Because mitzvahs are done with evarim. The evarim are here to fulfill the mitzvahs. Hektish, hafroshas trumos, umaisrois, miskaimos bepeh. You use your mouth to be makdish things. Tzedakah, biyad. Aliyah beregel, viraglayim. Right? Each part of your body services another mitzvah. Limud HaTorah, learning Torah, which part of your body do you learn Torah with? Now, the truth is that when we learn Torah, our whole body is involved. But that's not the ikar keli with which we learn Torah. If someone can't move their body, they're still able to learn Torah. What do we use to learn Torah? That's bidas. We learn Torah with our das. Listen to these next words because they're very, very powerful. the hadas, and I know that he heard them from Rav Hutner. The hadas, das, he ha'adam sheba adam. He ikar ha'adam. Das is the adam sheba adam. I want to explain what that means. What that means is as follows: that even within a person is made up of a seichel and a body. So, of course, the whole picture, my seichel with my body, is Adam. But within Adam, there's the animal in the Adam, and then there's the das in the Adam. The das is really the Adam of the Adam. That's the part that sets us apart from the animal kingdom. That's the part that's unique. If someone said, point to the Adam in you, it wouldn't be your hands, it would be your seichel. The seichel is what separates us from the rest of the world. It's the Adam Sheba Adam. It's the prime, it's the Maila of an Adam. The Divrei Torah loy chalim, the Divrei Torah loy rak chalim al hadas, Elohim hoivchin es hadas atzma, midas Adam ledas Torah. Divrei Torah are not just something you do with your mind. And you understand what he's getting at here. What controls all of the Eivarim of the body? The Das. So, it's true that I give tzedakah with my hand. It's true that I do aliyah l'regel with my body. But what's the power that animates my whole body? My Das. My Das is the thing that's the melech of my whole body. And what's the mitzvah of the Das? Torah. So Torah is the mitzvah that's makoim, is in the part of you that's the shirish of everything about you. The Adam Sheba Adam. And not only, he says the Mashgiach, and we'll see more about this as we go on, not only is it something that takes place in your Das, but it actually transforms your Das. It actually changes your mind from a human mind to a Torah mind. This is a very, very, very fundamental thing, and something that's only shayach to Klal Yisrael. Goyim have a chiyuv to learn the mitzvahs that they need to learn and to do the things that they need to do. They're here to live in this world and to run their lives in this world. Al pi the Ratzon Hashem. That's the job of the Goyim. We have a whole different avodah. To us, living in this world, Al pi the Ratzon Hashem, is the lowest part of our avodah. We live a godly life in this world. We don't just live in a way that's appropriate for this world. We infuse into our lives mitzvos and hanhagos that come from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we would never have thought of, that are not part of the regular running of the world. They're godly actions. They're godly hashkafos. And when a person learns Torah, it's not just that his das registers Torah and he tells his body to live al pi the Torah. The mind of a person molds itself and connects itself with a higher form of das. You know, one of the things that we do when we're learning that could be very, very a very big drawback in our learning is when we're dishonest in our learning. So I'll give you a few examples of dishonesty in learning and something to think about. First of all, sometimes we tend, especially when it comes to learning like a vart on the parsha or musar, so we tend to try to find the type of dvar Torah or the type of musar that feels good to us. And we learn the musar that our das likes. Now there's a place for that, to try to start in your learning in the area where you feel comfortable. But you see the drawback of that, right? Because then, instead of your das molding to the Torah, you're taking the Torah and molding it to your das. I only learn the things that I like. I'm not... Growth in Torah, I don't even hate to say it. Growth in Torah comes from stress. When I say stress, I don't mean that I'm stressed out, but it comes from friction. Think about it. We just finished Pesach, right? The whole Pesach Seder is derech she'elo tshuva, questions and answers. If someone's having the Seder themselves, what do? It says in Shulchan Aruch, they ask themselves questions and give the answers. what's the pshat? Why can't you just tell the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim? Why does it have to be questions and answers? The answer is because growth happens when something's not working. And you have to apply effort to understand something that's bigger than you. That's where growth happens. People, even in learning sugyas, sometimes people will manipulate the sugya or manipulate a svara. Shmaya and I have this all the time when we like to learn together, staying loyal to what it actually says. You ever have that challenge? Staying loyal. The Rashba says something. So when I'm younger and less experienced in learning, I take what I think the pshat is, and I say, oh, that's what the Rashba means. That's not the fullness of growth in Torah. The fullness of growth in Torah is that my mind is empty, and I take in the words of the Rashba, and I try to understand what he's saying. And if it's not the teretz that I thought, because he words it a little differently, now I have some stress. I have some friction. I have what I think the answer should be, and I have what the Rashba actually says. You know what the result of that stress is? Your mind becomes a kli shares to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Your mind works hard to absorb the values, the ideas, the ratzon, the svaras of the Torah. Something to think about. We have areas of Torah sometimes. We have a mitzvah sometimes. You ever have this? Or mitzvahs that make people uncomfortable, you know? They make people uncomfortable. Like people like to say things in a politically correct way. You know? And I'm not going to get into too many examples right now, but use your imagination. People try to say that. Now, it's true. There's a balance here between understanding. Look, everything in the Torah is beautiful. Everything in the Torah is majestic. Everything in the Torah is precious. And if I'm learning that there's a mitzvah to do genocide on Amalek, and that bothers me, I certainly have to tell myself there's a way to understand this that's deracheha darchei nayam, because I know that the ways of the Torah are pleasant and sweet and good. So there must be a way that Mechias Amalek reflects that. But I should not be apologetic about it. And I shouldn't try to avoid it. And I shouldn't tell myself I'm not thinking about that one. Because I'm not allowing myself to grow to take on the values of the Torah. Is there such a thing in Torah as being a kanoi and screaming at someone who does something wrong? Is there such a thing? Yes or no? Is there such a thing? There is such a thing. Bezdin, I don't know if you know this, but Bezdin used to do capital punishment. They would kill people who did the wrong thing. That means that somebody was Machal Shabbos, and Bezdin, I feel uncomfortable, Bezdin would kill them. In our culture today, we look down on people who are so judgmental. We look down on people that don't understand, what do you mean? But there's a Pintel Yid that wants to serve Hashem in there. We look down on the fact that why are you killing someone because of his beliefs and all of that stuff? Now, I want to tell you something. If you don't know me, and I'm not convinced that every single one of you knows me, you think I'm one of those guys that's like, Chil Shabbos, you know, I'm one of those guys throwing rocks on Bar Ilan. That's what you think. But if you do know me, you know, no. I'm one of those guys that understands that all these guys have a Pintel Yid. Shmaya? That's who I really am. But that's not the point. The point is, yes, my sensitivities are with the victim, with the Machal Shabbos, with the you know, that everyone should do tshuva, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves everyone. That's where my sympathies are. But I know that there's a place for saying all that notwithstanding, and I'll say a kapitel tehillim for you, but I'm going to throw you off a mountain because the Torah says you chayiv skila. I know there's a place for that. Is that always pleasant for me? Maybe not. Maybe yes. I'm not getting into it now. But the point is, if you want to be zeicha, that haifchim es hadas atzma, midas adam, l'das Torah, if you want to be zeicha, that your mind transforms to the das of Torah, you can't be afraid of the Torah. You have to be willing to submit yourself to the gorgeous beauty of Torah. Now, there are people whose Yiddishkeit is on life support. And when you find people whose Yiddishkeit is on life support, you have to focus on the things that are the easiest to understand and to click with and to be sympathetic to, and so on and so forth. But if you're not on life support and you're ready to accept the stress that there are going to be areas of Torah that you're going to be like, why is that okay? There are going to be parts of Torah like that. And you're prepared to say, I trust Hashem, and I trust Hashem's goodness, and I trust that Hashem wants what's right, and I trust the Kedusha of the Torah. And I know what the Yerushalmi says when the Pasuk says, Ki loy dava reiku mikem. The Torah says that the words of Torah are not a dava reik, they're not empty, mikem, from you. That the Yerushalmi says, im reiku, if it's empty, mikemu reik, it's empty because you're empty. And the Yerushalmi doesn't mean that to be disparaging. The Yerushalmi means it because we don't always have the full kalim, to have the full perspective and the full understanding of what the beauty and the yashrus and the correctness of every single ois in the Torah is. But if we keep at it and we submit ourselves to the das of the Torah, it's unbelievable how over time we start to develop Torah sensitivities. And that's one of the things that Gedolei Yisrael have, that sometimes people will be like, oh no, I think that Gadol is wrong because of this or because of that. That there's such a thing as sensitivities when a person's mind becomes a mirror image of the Torah. And he's learned and absorbed so much Torah that he literally thinks like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Watch out, because that person is reflecting the Torah. His das was ne'apach to the das of Torah. And that affects every single part of him. But don't think that this is just negeh to Gedolei Yisrael. This is something that we can all work towards. Gedolei Yisrael achieve it maybe on another level. But we can all work towards having a sense of what Torah is and a sense of how to be devoted to Torah in a way that it transforms our way of thinking and influences everything from the top of our head to the bottom of our toes. It affects every part of us in a way that lifts us up and makes us into that majestic Adam that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, that Adam Sheba Adam that carries up within him the Ratzon Hashem. Hashekulos.